just fell down. Okay. Chapter 12, study guide. This is a chapter about social psychology. I think it's, my arms always look really huge. Look how big it is. I always think it's a fun chapter. It's not one I would probably cover, except that we had decided some chapters leave out, some to include, and one of my colleagues really liked the chapter, so we include it. But otherwise, I'd leave it out. I mean, it's interesting. It's definitely interesting. But to me, it's very redundant. It says the same thing multiple different ways, so that the vocabulary to me gets a little tiring. It's a little unnecessary. But the topic is very interesting. The topic of social psychology is how groups of people influence our own behavior, or how other people influence our own behavior. So it's still a study of psychology, and psychology is a study of the individual. But it's a sociological perspective, and it's looking at the factors of society. And society is more than one person. It's other people outside of you. So normally in psychology, we're focusing on you, your individual thoughts, feelings, beliefs, attitudes, behaviors. But with social psych, we branch out and look at how being around other people affects our behaviors, thoughts, attitudes, feelings, that kind of stuff. So it's interesting. It's definitely used in criminal justice. It's definitely used in like business, sales, marketing. So those are just some quick examples. Education field, it'd be used in education field. Anywhere where a person's going to be around others and those others may influence them, it's going to be of interest to social psychologists. And what do you do with that degree? You just basically study how being around other people influence our behaviors, thoughts, and feelings. And then we give that information to other disciplines that may want it, like mob control with criminal justice, or in the classroom with education, in a store or a sales environment for business. So they just use that information. We're like consultants. We don't actually do anything with the information besides giving it to people who then do something with that information. All right. Anyway, that's question number 1 for our chapter 12 study guide is, what is social psychology? It's a study of how other people affect our behavior. Number 2, attribution. So now here comes starting the vocabulary stuff, which just is annoying. Okay, we're going to have 500 ways to say the same thing. Attribution. An attribution is an explanation for someone's behaviors, thoughts, or feelings. It's why you think they're feeling or acting that way. We say that in daily life. We say, I attribute your crankiness to the stress you're feeling from the virus and the changes in your life that it's bringing. Okay, I attribute. I'm assigning the cause. I think the reason that you're irritable is because of stress. So that's what attribution means. Then number 3 is there's 2 kinds of attributions. There's internal attributions and external attributions. Really, another word for attribution would be motivation, but that's another chapter. Internal attribution means the reason for me to act this way is something from inside myself. It's my own goals, it's my own desires, it's my own needs, and that's why I'm acting that way. It has nothing to do with anybody else. It's just me. So for an example, and sometimes it's called dispositional. I forgot. I need to say that. Internal and dispositional. I think your book calls it dispositional. Some other books call it internal. It's the same thing. But dispositional is a nice word because it really gives you the impression that it's something about that person. I love to go to the gym. My husband's like, why do you go to the gym so much? I've gone to the gym since I quit cheerleading in college in 1992. I have gone to the gym all the time since then. I maybe stayed out a week after I had a baby, and that's it. I worked out the day I was delivering. I mean, I have to move. I have to be physical. I don't really like sports. I don't like tennis. I don't like to run, but I have to be physical. So I exercise in one form or another. Anyway, so the reason I exercise is because it feels good. I like the feeling I get. It reduces my stress. It reduces anxiety. I get a little bit of a high afterward from cardiovascular work. So I like it. So it's totally an internal reason. Nobody gives me any kind of rewards or any kind of pats on the back or anything like that. It's just who I am and what I like. So because it's internal and it's dispositional, it's pretty permanent. It's been there since 91. And before that, I was in a sport, so that's where I got my exercise. But once I quit that sport, then I needed something else to do. So that's internal. It's something about me. It's my personality. It's about you. You like to be clean. Maybe that's why you keep your car so clean, because you're picky about cleanliness and you like things neat and orderly. It's not coming from any other reason except that's what you want to do. So we're going to attribute your cleanliness in your car to your natural desire to be clean and orderly or whatever. All right, so that's given number 4. Give some examples of internal attribution. I think I did that. But we also use it to understand other people's behavior. So we will ascribe an attribution to someone else's behavior. We'll come up with an explanation for why we think they're doing what they're doing. So I have an example in the notes that you're going to see of a slow car in front of you. If someone's driving very slowly in front of you and you're trying to figure out why, you're trying to figure out what to attribute their slowness to, you may say, they're just old, or they don't care about anybody else and they're just taking their sweet time, and something about them personally is the reason that they're slow. Then you're making an internal attribution. Okay. The number 5, external or situational attribution, means that it's something about the situation. It's something outside of the person is the cause of their behavior. So maybe with the car example for number 6, the slow car in front of you is going slowly because they have some pot of soup sitting in the seat. And if they go fast and hit turns, it'll spill. Maybe they are in pain. And if they go around turns too much, it'll hurt. Maybe they've got someone in the car with them in pain. You don't know. But the reason that they're going slowly would be something outside of them being inconsiderate or a bad driver or something that's them personally. It's the situation that they're in. So situational, external is an outside reason for someone's behavior. Internal distribution is their own reason, something that's more permanent. A situation can change and their behavior will change. But if it's dispositional or internal, they're pretty much consistent. So whatever the cause of the behaviors is probably going to stay there and they're going to keep doing the behavior. This can cause us some problems in life. You come home and the roommate hasn't done the dishes like they said they would. You often automatically jump to number 7, the fundamental attribution error, and you often jump to an internal dispositional cause for their behavior. They're lazy. They're inconsiderate. It's something about them personally and who they are that caused them not to do the dishes. That's a fundamental attribution error, and we all do it. We all do it so much, it's called fundamental error. We make mistakes in attributions all the time. Okay, we don't really know why people do what they do. We don't know why we do what we do half the time. So we make typical mistakes. One mistake is number 7, fundamental attribution error. This is where we believe automatically our first inclination is jump to an internal dispositional attribution for somebody's behavior. Okay? When we're looking at someone else's behavior, we often say it's something about them. That's why they're doing it. They are lazy, shiftless, whatever. Okay? The person in the car in front of you, you're probably going to immediately assume it's something about them. Something about who they are that's making them drive slow. They're a bad driver, whatever. They're paranoid. They're too cautious. All right. So we often ignore the potentiality of the situation that could be actually causing their behavior. It could be something else going on. And if we would do that, we would probably not get quite as upset at people, because if we think that it's an internal reason for why they're acting that way, then it's something they need to change if we don't like that behavior. It's a weakness, something not good. And then we get personal with it. So it causes us a lot of problems when you jump to those conclusions. We all do it though. Okay. An example of fundamental attribution error, we already gave it to the slow car in front of us. You think they're a jerk or they're a bad driver or whatever, instead of recognizing there could be something going on in their car. Okay, so that's all about attributions, internal, dispositional, and external, situational. Just think about that the next time you get upset with someone. Are you making a fundamental attribution error? Are you jumping to conclusions that it's something about them? Not even taking into consideration it could be the situation? All right. Number 9 and 10 actor and perceiver bias is, all right, we'll do it. So this is when we are watching behavior, okay, versus being in the behavior ourselves. The actor bias are the people who are actually in the behavior. They're in the exchange. They're doing the behavior. They're acting in the scene. A lot of social psych is watching social interactions and how people behave in social interactions, which I think is fascinating, but that's what it is. The actor is the person who's actually in the circumstance, and the perceiver, number 10, is the person who's watching it from the outside. So that's how we refer to these people. The actors are actually in the scene, and the perceivers are outside watching it, okay? So we're going to have these actors do an interaction, a behavior, and then we're going to have someone watch it, and we'll interview the watcher, the perceiver, and see why they think that person did the behavior. And then we'll interview the actor themselves, maybe in a real life situation, and ask them why they did do the behavior. So, for example, you're standing in the grocery line, and you see the people in front of you, the checkout person and the customer, they're getting into it, right? They're having a scuffle, a disagreement. And you're back here watching in line. If we stop the scenario, freeze time, and ask the people in the circumstance, what's going on? Why are you acting this way? They'll say it was because of them. They did this to me. It's their fault. They attribute their behavior to an outside external cause situation. It's the other person. It's a bad day. It's hot in here, something like that. If you ask the watcher, the perceiver, why do you think the actor's acting this way? They will come up with an internal reason, a dispositional reason. They'll say, well, that actor's grumpy, or that actor is rude, that actor is self-entitled. It's just another kind of bias, an error that we make. When we're asked about our own behavior, we're likely to say somebody else, something else, some other reason, not me. When we ask the person watching their behavior, it's them. It's them, something about them. It's just another common error that we make. Again, I think a lot of this leads to arguments and frustrations and bad thoughts about people. If we would recognize that we all make these mistakes and give some benefit of the doubt, we might be less cranky. All right. So that was 9 and 10. Number 11, saying the same thing, just a new word. Self-serving bias, number 11. So this is when we are going to use whatever attribution makes us look good in the situation. So if our behavior is put in best light, if it's because of the situation, then that's what we'll blame for our behavior. If our behavior is seen in the best light, if it's something about us, then that's what we'll use as an explanation. So for example, schoolwork. School is a really good, easy one, okay? You study and do well on a test. Yay, I'm smart. I worked really hard. I took it seriously. I studied a lot. Yay me. Internal dispositional attribution. You take a test and you fail. The test was stupid. Teacher didn't teach me. The test was too tricky. It was too noisy in here. I didn't have enough time. Those are external situational causes. This is what we're going to do. We're going to pick the attribution that makes us look the best. It happens at work. It happens in relationships. It happens at school. It happens everywhere. It is so common. It's another one of those errors. Okay, it's a bias, self-serving bias. We're going to serve ourselves. It's just the way it is. 12, pro-social behavior. It's easy, kind of changing gears. It's any behavior that helps other people. There you go. It doesn't hurt them. Anti-social behavior is behavior that hurts other people. Most people use that word incorrectly. They think antisocial means you're shy, you're quiet, you're not socializing. No. Antisocial is the opposite of pro-social. If pro-social helps others, then antisocial hurts others. So if you call your buddy antisocial because they're not hanging out at the party, you are insulting them. You are telling them that they are dangerous people, that they disregard others and the rights of others, and they step all over people and use people. I don't think that's what you meant to say. So 12, pro-social behavior, anything that helps other people. We like studying that. Why do we help others? What prompts us? What is there anything about the circumstances that makes us more or less likely to help other people? That's interesting to us. Where do helpful behaviors come from? Number 13, are you more likely or less likely to help somebody if there are other people around? You'd be surprised. We are less likely to help others if there are other people around. It's called the bystander effect, number 14. And it is just the fact that we are less likely to help others if in need, if there are other people around who could do it. Now, we used to think it was diffusion of responsibility. Everybody's saying, well, they're going to do it, they're going to do it, they're going to do it, they're going to do it. I'm not. But some of it we think is actually like feeling uncomfortable in the situation. Like, I'm going to do what everybody else is doing. So if everybody else is standing around looking and not acting, I'm going to stand around and not act because I want to fit in with the group. I want to do what the group's doing. It's very strange. I don't think I have it up here, but you could go look at the Kitty Genovese case. It is a famous case, I think it was New York City, where a woman was attacked on the street at night and screamed and yelled. The man with a knife attacked her, and he left her for dead. She fell down the street, he thought she was dead. She revived herself and walked on. And then he came back and got her again and actually killed her this time in the stairwell. And the idea is that many people heard her screams. They turned on their lights. They looked out in the street. They saw. We think they saw the attack. Nobody called. Nobody did anything. They shut their windows. They said, somebody else will do it. Or nobody else is doing anything. Maybe I shouldn't. She was actually killed in front of people who did nothing. So you can read about that case study. It's very interesting. But that's the bystander effect. So the moral of the story is if you need some help, you need to be by yourself when you're in time of need, because that one lone person walking by, more likely to help you. Number 15. This little section coming up now is about how we're influenced by other people. I mean, we've kind of been talking about that all along, and I think of this one specifically with business, but it can be law, legal stuff too, education, just like the things we've talked about before. So compliance. Compliance is trying to get somebody to do what you want them to do by asking them, okay? You're asking them in a polite way. Would love for you to do this. Will you please do this for me? Take out your books and let's go to page 23. I'm not being mean. I'm not threatening you. I'm not telling you something bad's going to happen if you don't do it. But I'm asking for compliance. I want you to do something. So it's kind of like a polite, nice way. Not a demand. Some ways that we try to get compliance from people, not forcing them, remember, is the foot in the door technique, which is a sales technique, but we use it to try to get our parents to do what we want them to do, to get our spouse to do what we want them to do, our friends, our bosses, our coworkers, our customers, whatever. Foot in the door. We have something big that we'd really like them to do for us or help us with, okay? But we figure they're probably not going to say no. They're going to say no. We figure they're going to say no. So instead of asking them for the big thing, we say, well, I'm just going to ask for this little tiny part. And maybe they'll say yes to that. And if they say yes to that, then I can ask for a little bit more. So it's foot in the door. Just let me get my foot in the door. You've heard people say that before. Maybe you want to go stay the whole weekend with your friends and go to a concert. But you figure that's probably too much to ask of your parents. So instead you say, can I go to the concert? And maybe they say yes to that. And then maybe you say, can I stay all night the night before the concert? Or the night of, maybe? And they say yes to that. And you say, well, could I stay all night the day before too? Because it would just make it easier for everyone. We can just leave. Do you see how you got little steps you got there? You just got your foot in the door. If you can get your foot in the door and get a yes to something small, then you can keep upping it. And they're more likely to keep saying yes. They've already invested time. It's little things you're asking of them, not big giant things. So it's just easier. Number 17 is like the opposite. Okay. Instead of asking for something tiny and keep upping the ante till you actually get what you want, You ask for maybe something way beyond what you really want. Can I stay for the whole week? You know? Knowing they're going to say no. Knowing it's way too much, way too big of a request. It's too much to ask them to do. So when they say no, and they slam the door in your face, literally, figuratively, then you say, oh, okay, that's fine. I understand that's too much. So can you just let me stay maybe the weekend? And it doesn't sound as bad. You want somebody to help you move. You don't say, hey, can you spend the next 2 days helping me move? Instead, you say you want them to help you move today, but you ask for the whole weekend. That's too much. So you say, well, can you just do it for today? Or, so that's a good example. Where a foot in the door about moving would be, hey, can we use your truck? Hey, can you come help me move this one thing? Hey, can you help me move just this living room until I'm done? See how you inch them up. So, number 18. Okay, now we're actually getting really demanding now. We went from one extreme to the other. Compliance is, hey, I'd really like for you to do this. And obedience is, you must. So we kind of went to the other extreme. You have to. I am the authority figure. I am in charge, and you must do this. We demand obedience. We demand a change, and there will be bad things happening if you don't do it. So it's much more forceful. Rarely do we use this in school, but we use this in the criminal justice system. If you don't, if you disobey this rule, you are going to have major punishment. You're going to jail. So we demand obedience. Parents often demand obedience from their kids for, certain actions. You don't do this, this will happen to you. Number 19. So this is a famous study that showed how obedient we are likely to be with very little consequences placed on us. We've had situations in society where people have acted out in very shocking ways, following orders, like Nazi Germany with concentration camps. It's fascinating. People followed orders to kill others, to hurt others, and they did it. And so we're very interested. What motivates somebody to do that? Why would they? How easy is it to get someone to obey commands that are against their morals and their values? So the Milgram study was an experiment to try to test that out. How far will people go against what they believe? And wow, the results were crazy. You can go watch it online, and maybe I'll find a video and link it to the class. Usually I show it in class, but we're not together. But you can look up the Milgram study. It's number 19. Yeah. So what we did with that is we got volunteers, adult males. I forget what state it was in. It was in a big city. Just regular old volunteers off the street. And we brought them in and told them that we're doing an experiment on learning. And we want to see how quickly somebody can learn with consequences. So we put somebody in a back room to be the student, and they can't see. They're locked away in a room. And then we put the other person as the role of the teacher. And they had this big machine in the 1960s hooked up. And so they communicated through a speaker. That's what they thought. They were communicating through a speaker. The learner, the student, wasn't even in on it. There was a recording in that room. They never actually participated. They were in on it. The teacher had no idea that the learner was not really there, and it was a recording. So the teacher would say, you have to pick the next word in this sequence. So they would give them 3 words, and the student, the fake recording, would give a word as they thought the 3rd word in the sequence. If they were wrong, the teacher shocked them. And the shocks went up from a very low shock to a very strong shock, painful shock. And so each time they got a wrong answer, they had to up the shock a little bit. And so the teacher did it. The student always got it wrong, and the teacher shocked him. And the teacher starts getting uncomfortable because the guy over there, the learner, is starting to scream and yell. I'm in pain, I'm in pain. It's so funny to hear the 60s version. It's so trite. And so the teacher's like, oh, crap, man. I'm hurting this guy. I don't want to keep doing this. And the experimenter wearing a white coat just said, you must continue. I mean, didn't get like mean, didn't say we're going to do anything to you. You just said you must continue. And the teacher did. I forget the percentage, it's a high percentage of the teachers kept going, delivered what they thought in the end were terrible level shocks. The student is unconscious. They kept going just because somebody in a white lab coat said, you must continue. So this kind of stuff happens. We just found that we are very likely to obey orders if the person is in authority. There's some other characteristics. We're more likely to obey authority if they're very close to us physically, standing close. And also if we're far away from the person that we're hurting. So the student was in another room. If they were right beside you, you're probably less likely to be obedient, we found. So it's just interesting. Whew, that's number 19. Number 20, define persuasion. So this kind of middle of the road. We had compliance, then we had obedience, and really persuasion should have been next. I guess this is the order in your book. 20, persuasion. Persuasion is an attempt to get somebody to do what you want. That's what all three have in common. It's a little stronger than compliance, and it's more manipulative than compliance, but it's not as demanding as obedience. So persuasion is using information to influence somebody. You're trying to convince them that they really want to do it themselves, okay? Versus compliance was just asking them. Now you're going a step further and you're kind of pushing them, but not with dire consequences, not with you must, okay, which is what obedience is. So you influence someone to do something. You try to convince them that they really want to do it. I mean, this is probably the most successful thing to do. I mean, you use this on your parents, trying to get them to do what you want to do. 21's the same thing. Sorry, repeat. It's a gimme. Don't leave it blank. Put it in there, though. 22. So these are different ways, things that we can do to increase our persuasibility, our powers of persuasion for others. And also think about this and see if you're being persuaded by somebody else. Are they using these tactics on you? Be aware of them. Keep a heads up. All right. Number 22, source factors. Who is doing the persuading? And you can think of a salesperson in this example. The person themselves matters. If some of you are going to have jobs where your whole goal of your job is to persuade people to behave a certain way. If you're in the health field, your job is to persuade people to take their medicine, do certain habits that they need to do, eat a certain way if they're diabetic, exercise, because most of the things that are killing us are chronic illnesses that are caused by our behaviors. So your goal is to try to help people change their behavior. Same true for education, same true for criminal justice. Okay, but let's look at a healthcare field. That's pretty interesting. So if you yourself, who's trying to help a patient who's diabetic, is diabetic and you're not keeping yourself under control, you're probably not going to be a very good persuader. If you are trying to tell them they need to eat better and you are, not eating well, you're overweight, whatever, due to those kind of factors, then you're not going to be that persuasive. If you're telling them, hey, you need to stop smoking because of your heart and you're smoking, you're not persuasive. So the person themselves matter. Here's some characteristics of the person themselves. 1, expertise. We got to think that that person knows what they're talking about. If we're going to believe them and have our behaviors changed because of what they're telling us, then we need to know that they know what they're talking about. So a lot of times on those infomercials, they're going to say, I'm Dr. So-and-so and I've treated this many patients. Attractiveness. Now you can say that's not fair and the world shouldn't be that way. Well, tough noogie. Okay. The more attractive somebody is, the more persuasive they are. We've got all kinds of evidence to that. It's just a fact. Why do you think salespeople try to look so good? Trustworthy. We need to feel that these people are trustworthy, that they have our best interests at heart. They're not trying to shyster us. They're not trying to manipulate us. We want to think they actually care about us. All right. And that they're honest. So that's factors of the person. The factors of the message itself, number 23. How do we go about telling them or persuading them with what we want them to do? What's being said or done? We got to get their attention. And that can be in different ways, but we have to have their attention. Now, as far as the conclusion we want them to draw, the action that they want them to take, there's 2 ways to go about that. 1 is you let them figure it out. Like lead them there, but they in the end say, hey, you know what? If I just eat like this, I won't have these problems anymore. And you're like, yes. And you're thinking in your head, this is what I was trying to tell you, but it's leading them to it so they come to conclusion. The other way is you tell them what they're supposed to think and believe. It's usually better if you can lead them there, but it takes more finessing and more time on your part. So, I don't know why that's in message. It should be audience. I'm going to leave out the acceptance. Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's the message factor, how you get them there. Number 24. Another factor influencing people is the people you're trying to influence. What is it about them? Younger people are more easily to influence than older people, but older people are more easily to influence too. So it's that middle ground that's tougher. What's their experience like? How much they already know about this subject? How familiar are they with it? What's their education level? Are they male or female? These kind of things matter depending on what it is you're trying to persuade someone to do. So you need to know who you're talking to, and then you talk to that population particularly. And then number 25. The medium factor, and that is what channel are you using to get your point across. The more channels you can use, the better. If you can have it on internet and TV and voicemail and billboards, the more ways you hear about it, the more you're likely to be persuaded. So seeing something one time is not enough. You need repetition. If everybody starts saying the same thing, you start to believe it. Okay? So you need more than one channel. Oh, something I didn't mention, the target audience, I'm going to copy this and put this down here, is acceptance. Where are these people already in their attitudes toward the topic? Do they already believe in it a little bit and they just need pushed just a little bit more? It goes with the message too, because you need to know how big to make that statement. Like if you're taking someone who has diabetes and you say you can never eat sugar again, that might be too much. But if you're taking someone who has diabetes and say limit your sugar to once a day, that might be something they can handle. That's that foot in the door. So that's part of your target audience. It's also part of your message. I can see that in both. So I think I'll put it back up there too. That's it. That's chapter 12. Made it. Oh, wait a second. 24. 25. Yeah, we did it. That's all of it. That's it. Bye.